And he was like, yeah, these autistic kids kind of scare me a little. Now, instantly, what do we think? Was like, oh, why? Are you talking about aggressive behavior? Right. Or are you talking about that they're going to be blunt with you, you know, and be like, no, you look like crap and I'm not going to sugarcoat it? Or why?
Yeah, why?
And it was me asking, okay, why? Why did they scare you? And he said, because they learned something so quick, it's as if they had downloaded it. Hi, friends and family. Today on Pam and the Purple Couch podcast, we're going to talk about a shift in the paradigm. Right now, when we think about neurodivergent, we think about less than, or problematic, or compensation. How are we going to move things around so that we can make it more friendly? What happens when we change our thought process? What happens when we look at this a little bit differently? Instead of less than, how about more than? Today on Pam and the Purple Couch podcast, we're going to take and reshift our paradigm on neurodivergence. So, friends and family, we see it in the media, we see it on social media, we see it now, especially in the news. We've got wonderful, all this about autism again is back in the news.
Yep.
And we hear the word neurodivergence.
Yep.
My LinkedIn account gets blown up with people asking me, hey, Pam, what would you do in this situation? We've got this employee, and this employee is neurodivergent, and they can't handle high-pitched sounds. And I'm like, yeah, how many of your other employees have you asked that high-pitched sound gets on their nerves, they just don't say anything?
Right.
We look at our neurodivergent population because they don't have a filter.
Right.
I think about all of our kids, our young adults, that we deal with on the daily. And the biggest thing that I see is, and I have got this reel of this woman, which I'm going to address in this episode, I see their superpowers. And the reason I said because I was hesitant on saying superpowers, because I watched a woman in crisis, and I got a problem with this too. I'll explain that later, because I had a mom early on in our field that would take video of her child in crisis and then come in and be like, do you see this? Do you see him in crisis? Do you see him? And he won't get off the ball, and he won't do. And she has just got herself all worked up. And I'm like, so why do you have the phone out?
Yeah.
Why are you not engaged with your child? Why are we just videotaping this instead of being on the floor with the kid, reassuring the child because the child is in crisis?
Yeah.
Where did the cell phone come from?
That always bothered me when I used to watch Dr. Phil and Super Nanny, and the videos that they would send to Dr. Phil in advance of the kids at home, and literally they're filming their kids throwing stuff, property destruction, yelling,
and
screaming,
I'm like,
cursing.
step in!
Yeah, just get involved. It just bothered me.
So this woman on this reel was showing her older child in a full crisis, physical aggression, completely in a meltdown, alrighty? Self-injurious behavior going on, what we call SIB. It's just initials. We love initials in the ABA field.
Oh, yeah.
But this child was an older child and nonverbal and was attacking the parent. They were driving to an appointment or a session or something, and the parent was physically getting her butt whipped by the child. Okay. The problem I'm having with her showing this video, whoever it was recording it from the front seat. And the comment in the reel was, I am sick of people calling autism a superpower. This isn't a superpower. I took a deep breath on that. Because when we talk about the superpowers that our children exhibit when they have a neurodivergent ability, these are our children that are within our scope, our demographic.
Right.
Parents, when you're watching these videos and they're portraying an autistic person, we need to make sure that there is nothing else also diagnosed with that child.
Right.
So many times over the last decade, what we have seen is this blanket diagnosing. I have seen diagnoses from occupational therapist diagnosing a child. Parents, please don't do that. Find a neurologist. Find someone who is trained in the organic brain processes, not just a therapist. there's so many times we see children that originally it's, oh, that child's ASD. It's a quick and easy, get them in and out of the office. Okay? I deal with the insurance world. They diagnose, guess what? They're getting reimbursed no matter if they spent 4 hours, 16. You get what I'm saying? When it's a bundled code. The reason I make that sigh is because we've dealt with it. We're dealing with it all the time. It's not like something that just comes and goes and it's just one case. A lot of times these children have more than one diagnosis.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that is so key, parents, is because when we talk about neurodivergence, we're talking about the ability to learn and process differently.
Right.
Okay, so let's make that clear. I'm not talking about a child who also has ODD. Okay, I am completely going to, anything you ask of me, I'm going to fight you. I'm going to argue with you. I may aggress on you because you are asking me to perform a task instead of giving me options.
Right.
And so my brain processes differently. That's different than autism spectrum disorder, attention deficit disorder, attention hyperactive disorder. These are all different, but yet they get bundled so many times under one lump sum.
Right.
Oh, that child's just autistic.
Well, I think the word different is something that we talk about a lot. We don't talk about deficits, we talk about differences. So when we think about neurodiversities, the first question is, okay, so let's talk about their differences in comparison to whatever standard you want, whether it's developmental milestones or language milestones or whatever.
Correct.
Then once we understand their differences, we then also can understand their strengths and areas where we can improve things or make more developmental milestones. So whether it's language or creativity or problem-solving skills or social skills, whatever they are, it's just different. It's not a deficit.
No.
It's just where are they at? But that we call it comorbidity, right? So dual diagnoses. It's interesting. I think over the years we've seen what you're describing. We've seen kids get diagnosed with one diagnosis, and it's left at that.
Correct.
And yet, once you start to observe their behaviors and you start to see the dynamics, it can't just be that, because they are showing different traits that have nothing to do with the autism diagnosis. It has to do with their ability to critically think or their ability to maintain attention focus for long periods of time. And I think you're right. I think it's kind of bundled into one.
Well, and I'm going to upset some parents when they hear this. There's also why early intervention is so key. We've seen it, especially when we have intakes.
Yeah.
We see it when we have children that are in their teens, that are in later, and they've never, ever had any therapeutic interventions.
Right.
To learn how to take these exceptionalities and make them work for them.
Yeah.
I had, 2 or 3 days ago, I was at a workout session. I was in a training session, and the trainer was talking to me about what I do for a living. And I was explaining to him, I work with these wonderful superheroes. And it was beautiful because this man's 23 years old. And he was like, yeah, these autistic kids kind of scare me a little. Now, instantly, what do we think? Was like, why? Are you talking about aggressive behavior? Right. Or are you talking about that they're going to be blunt with you, and be like, no, you look like crap and I'm not going to sugarcoat it? Or why?
Yeah, why?
And it was me asking, okay, why? Why did they scare you? And he said, because they learned something so quick, it's as if they had downloaded it. And it felt so good to hear that because I was waiting. I was ready. I was like, what you going to throw? Because I got one for you. But instead, it was the fact, and he actually made a reference to the Matrix.
Okay.
He goes, I've coached a lot of neurodivergent, kids in training physical fitness. And he said, a lot of times it's like they get a direct download. If they want to learn something, they don't just learn it. He said they learn it. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He was like, nutrition. He said, I used to coach this kid, and he was like, as soon as he got into nutrition and started learning about the metabolic rates and things like that, he went full deep dive into it. And so, yes, I think about our kids that when they want something, they fixate on it. And it's like their brain. It's like, I don't want to just learn a little bit of it. I fully want to deep dive into it. But I had never thought about that as scary. Now, that's a wonderful superpower. Yeah. That is an amazing trait. But why would you find that? Because it's intimidation.
Sure, yeah.
And it's next level learning. Mm-hmm. All right, families, we'll be right back after this special message. Are you looking for an alternative to public school? Puzzlebox Academy is your home, where every child is looked at as an individual. Come to Puzzlebox Academy, take your tour today, and you will see the difference. Puzzlebox Academy at www.puzzleboxacademy.com. And now, back to the Purple Couch Podcast. We just got done the last podcast, and we were talking about indoctrination and how the school system needs to change. Mm-hmm. I think about these kids that are in a classroom that are going to say, no, teacher, that's wrong.
Yeah, I was thinking the challenging part. So if you're a physical trainer and you have your regimen of how you're going to train, and then your client, which happens to have autism or whatever, and not just absorbs what you're coaching, but then goes home and does their own research and learns even other techniques or other strategies and comes back to you and says, but there's a better way to do that. Now you're challenging the expert. Right?
Oh, but is it ego?
Yeah, and so I think it's a pride thing. I think they're challenged, and once you're challenged, it's just like anybody else that quote unquote has an expertise. I'm being challenged. And
so let's think about our teachers.
Mm-hmm,
Gen Ed teachers in the public school system right now. We were just told, I was interviewing a staff member for a position, and they were coming from a charter school here locally. Proceeded to let me know that the charter school was 32 kids to one teacher.
Wow, that's
so
insane.
now let's just think about that. You're a teacher, you're in a classroom, you have 32 students of all learning types in that classroom. Mm-hmm. I would automatically, the behavioralist is like, okay, Manny, we got a teacher that's in crisis. What are we going to do about this? Because 32 kids with one teacher is already a crisis.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's insane.
So now you add to it, let's look at the role. We're talking about history. And the teacher's reading the wonderful textbook and is teaching the lesson, but maybe that is what this neurodivergent person, that is their shtick. They love history. Mm-hmm. And the textbook might have something written incorrectly.
Right.
As we know personally, we giggle a little because you're finished. Because that kid is going to be like, no, Miss Smith, that's wrong. Miss Smith's going to go, no, Johnny, please read the chapter. No, I'm not going to because it's wrong.
Yep.
Johnny, that neurodivergent person, because remember, there's no shade of gray. It's black and white. It's concrete versus abstract. Right. And they're going to tell you, no, this is exactly what happened. And then give you the synopsis, the dates, when it happened, how it happened, why it happened, and then look at you. That's the time a teacher needs to bite the ego.
I think you mentioned how you get on LinkedIn, you get questions about the workplace, right? Oh. So it's similar in the workplace, right? That what happens when you get a job? You get onboarded, you get training, right? And so imagine the trainer. Their job is to train the new employee, right? And it's to train the new employee in the manner in which the trainer or whatever the training department deems as the way to do it. So if you got a person that's going to challenge the status quo, that doesn't always bode well for, in workplace settings. But if the trainer's not open to that discussion, if they're not open to those opinions, they're going to see it as defiance, as insubordination. It becomes problematic.
Absolutely.
And so similar to like the classroom and the workplace, we talk about, like when we talk about coaching, we don't identify what's wrong with the scenario. We say, well, what's working or what's not working so we can make it better.
Yes.
If you only focus on what's wrong, you're only going to identify the problem. You're not identifying a solution.
Yes.
And so whether it's the classroom or it's the workplace, the person that's interacting with someone that has neurodiversity just asks those kind of basic fundamental questions of, this person's challenging me, or this person has these detailed questions, or they have some ideas because their ADHD and their creativity juices are spiraling. Well, what's working versus what could be better?
Yes. One of my friends called me night before last, and she's in South Carolina, and she's a coach. She's neurodivergent, and she is probably one of the most grateful people I've ever met in my life. If you would look at her, you'd just be like, oh my goodness, this woman is just this bundle of energy and love. if I say the word love, I picture her face in my head because, you know, you've met those people that's just everything is, oh, I'm so grateful and I just love doing this and this is wonderful. And so she asked me for some advice, knowing what I do for a living. And she was like, I'm having a hard time processing some feedback I got from my boss. And she said she told me that I was too grateful. And from someone who is that energy, but this is the coaching that comes into, okay, you're in the workplace though. And like I said, she is oblivious to the white lies or shades of gray. She is just who she is. She is her pure authentic self.
Yep.
I just want to give a memory, back to Jose, because that was what he would always tell you. Just be authentic. Be your authentic self. And so that's what she was expressing. And she was like, Pam, you know me. And I could feel her energy over the phone. I'm like, yes, I do. And I had to take a moment and I said, okay, so what bothered you about what your boss, the feedback, what was it that bothered? And she was like, I'm just real. I don't think she can handle me because now, as a neurodivergent person, I could hear her processing out loud. I'm just being me. You're asking me to be something I'm not.
Right.
So to her, this was a complete, no, you're basically asking me to lie, and I'm not going to lie. You're asking me not to be who I am. And that was the battle I could hear her, and that's what was vocalizing in the conversation. So I let her vent, and then I told her, I said, okay, so now, have you ever been to somebody that looks at you and you're just feeling down in the dirt, and they're like, oh, you look so nice today. And straight out, you don't look nice. It's one of those days, no makeup on, your hair kind of looks like you were in a tornado, and you're like, yeah, it's one of them. But oh, you look so good today. I have a couple of those friends. I look at them and I call it right out. I'm like, you're full of shit. Just keep moving. But I think we all have that person in our life that no matter what you say, they're going to be, oh, you're great, you're wonderful, but you don't trust them.
Right.
You don't believe them. It's great. They make you feel good. But you're like, yeah, okay, whatever, Shirley. And you keep on going. What I explained to her was that, and it's because I work with neurodivergent people on the day in and day out. I asked her, I said, okay, it's not that she's telling you did anything bad. It's the fact that for people who are not as bright as you are, and I don't mean bright in intelligence, I mean in energy level and this wonderful abundance of energy when she walks into a room. Everybody knows she's there. And I said, sometimes that comes across as not being authentic.
Yep.
And when I said that to her, it instantly clicked because it wasn't that she had to shape who she was. It was the fact that I needed to explain to her, it's like, your boss is worried that when you're talking to clients with that much enthusiasm, that they are already in a bad spot. So they're going to look at you as being unauthentic.
Right.
And I was like, and you are the most authentic person I've ever met in my life. But she's concerned that you're going to push them so far away because your energy is too much for them to handle at that initial.
Right.
And that just instantly, she was like, oh my gosh, I got it. Okay, I hear you now. I can do that. And so many times it is the perspective of how we relay the information.
Yeah, and I think, when we talk about the neurodiverse population of people, you mentioned the word energy. And I remember it wasn't too long ago that I was asked to talk about what is the day in the life of the place that I get to work, which is our early intervention program. And when I was asked that question on the spot, I said, well, in a word, it's energy. Because depending on the day, depending on the kiddo, depending on the family, the energy could be bright and positive and they're excited, or it could be angry and frustrated, or it could be mild mannered, etc. But that energy from the day they walk in the door to the day to the time they walk out the door at the end of the day can shift, and it shifts, it waves,
Yes.
And so I look at neurodiversity as it's managing energy. So how do first I got to understand what the energy level is at the beginning, kind of my baseline, right? And then figure out, okay, is it ebbing or is it flowing? Like, is it going up or is it going down? And so if it's going down and things are going downhill, how do I bring it back up?
Absolutely.
If it's too high, and we're talking, this is where hyperactivity comes in, maybe anxiety comes in. Maybe you have somebody that talks really fast or really slow. Like, if the energy's too high, how do I bring it to a place where they can just keep it leveled, right? And so for me, whether it's the classroom or the workplace or our early intervention center, I love thinking about neurodiversity in terms of just self-management or people management in terms of energy.
Well, and it was funny because that person that talks very fast, I know a couple of them that have a lot of information and they go really fast, and can you keep up with them? And so I also know that type of energy is wonderful with time management.
Yes. Yep.
So those are the things that we start looking at least business-wise. Oh, I'll hire, especially in my accounting department, a neurodivergent person over a neurotypical person all day long. Am I supposed to say that? Well, what's it matter? It comes into their skill set. When I'm looking for someone to fill the position, it doesn't matter if they've got alphabet soup by their name or PhD alphabet soup by their name. It's who can perform the task to the best of their ability and fit the culture of the company.
Exactly.
And guys, I think that's something we really need to tune into, is that does the person, not the diagnosis, not the label, fit the culture of your company? Does it fit the culture of your friend group? Does it fit the culture of your school? That is where individuality comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And instead of making it less than or problematic, how will they benefit your team?
Right.
I think that's what we need to look at.
I love that.
Labels. There's always a battle between parents, and we hear this a lot in the different demographic, especially socioeconomic,
Yep.
where you'll have families that understand that diagnosis means access to treatment and care.
Yep.
But you'll also have a level in the socioeconomic that parents are like, I don't want my kid labeled. And we're like, what the hell's the label matter? Let's just get your kid some help and care.
Right.
Oh, well, I don't want to pay that much for therapy. Well, you don't want to pay that much for therapy because you don't want insurance to come in and help you because you don't want the diagnosis. So it becomes this big loop.
Yeah.
But why don't they want the label? Because just like we're talking about, they don't want the stigma of their child being less than. And again, going back, I know we have to wrap up this episode, but I just want our parents to understand that when you get a diagnosis, we need to make sure that it's not a blanket one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but it kind of stuck with me. Labels should be leveraged, not a limitation.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I think that's how we're going to end today. Labels should be leveraged and not a limitation. Wow. So that kind of sets the tone for neurodivergent, neurotypical. How about why don't we all just start being human beings again? So guys, if you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to hit the like, the subscribe, and share. Share this video in case you need somebody to say, hey, I'm a little different. I'm not less than. I am who I am, and I love who I am. So guys, from our couch to yours, we'll see you next time on Pam and the Purple Couch Podcast. Goodbye.